During this lesson you will be required to fill out a worksheet. I recommend you read through the worksheet before viewing the lesson. In order to give you time to do this, you can use the pause button at the bottom of the screen.
Learning outcomes. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to state the minimum dimensions of fireplaces and fire opes, state the minimum dimensions of a constructional heart, state what a flue liner is made from, list the two names given to the wall that separates flue liners and state its minimum thickness, state when this thickness might be increased. General building regulations. It is required that appliances producing heat are designed and installed to work efficiently and safely without giving rise to nuisance and without having harmful effects on the structure. Adequate provision should be made for the discharge of the products of combustion from the heating appliance to the air outside. Heat producing appliances, flue pipes and chimneys should be installed and or constructed so the risk of fire from these sources is reduced to a minimum. Regulations on fire opes and flue liners. The blockwork jamb on each side of the fire ope should not be less than 200 mm thick. 200 mm thick. The back of the recess should be a solid wall not less than 200 mm, or if a cavity wall, each leaf should be 100 mm thick, and such thicknesses should extend the full height of the recess with a non-combustible insulation fitted into the cavity. The fireplace opening should be a minimum of 450 mm wide. 450 mm wide. The soffit of the gathering unit must be placed between 600 mm and 750 mm above the concrete floor of the constructional heart. 600 to 750 mm. Questions. State the minimum width of a fire ope. State the minimum thickness of the block jambs either side of the fire ope. State the minimum thickness of the back of the recessed fire ope. State what distance the soffit should be above the constructional heart. The throat should measure 110 mm by 250 mm for best results when using a fire lintel. This is the throat. The constructional heart must be a minimum of 125 mm thick, extend 150 mm either side of the ope and 500 mm in front of the fireplace. 125 mm deep, 150 mm either side of the fire ope, and 500 mm out from the jamb. This is a sectional view of a chimney stack. The minimum diameter of a flue liner should be 185 millimeters. The flue liner should be made of a non-combustible material such as fire clay, which contains a material called silica, which is resistant to high temperatures. A minimum 100 mm thick wall called a width or mid-feather wall must be placed between flues. The minimum distance of flue liners should be kept apart is 200 mm. 200 millimeters. Questions? State the minimum thickness of a constructional heart. State the minimum projection of the heart either side of the jamb. State the minimum projection of the heart out from the jamb. State what a flue liner is made from. List the two names given to the wall that separates the flue liners and state its minimum thickness. When might this thickness be increased? Here's a diagram of a fire up with a precast gathering unit. This gathering unit is made of concrete. In practice, the gathering unit is usually placed on top of 3 double courses and 1 single course. Here's a diagram of an interlacing fire rope containing 2 flues from different dwellings. We can see we have house A and house B. The mid-feather wall separating the 2 flue liners has to be a minimum of 200 mm thick to ensure that no fire spreads from one house to another. Here we have a diagram of a cutaway view of a typical fireplace and suspended timber floor. We have our precast gathering unit sitting on top of one leg of our fire rope. We have our party wall at the back of the fire rope. We have our constructional heart, which is made from concrete. The constructional heart sits on top of the fender wall at the front and sits on top of some hardcore at the back. On top of the fender wall at the front of the constructional heart we have the DPC. Then on top of that DPC we also have a wall plate, and then on top of the wall plate we have our suspended timber floor on top of our floor joists. In conclusion, the minimum dimensions of fireplaces and fire opes are as follows. A fire ope should be at least 450 mm wide. The jamb on either side of the fire ope should be at least 200 mm thick. The soffit of the fire rope should be 600 to 750 mm from the constructional heart, usually placed on top of 3 doubles and 1 single course. The minimum dimensions of a constructional heart are: its thickness should be no less than 125 mm. It should project either side of the jamb by at least 150 millimeters, and it should project out into the room from the jamb at least 500 millimeters.